Good morning, everybody. Welcome to some Civil War poetry. This is Thursday, July the 16th, 2020. My name is Vincent Hannum, and this is my office in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Coming to you live, 7:30 a.m. Central Time. So, what do we do on some Civil War poetry? Well, we read some Civil War poetry, poems from the time, do a little comparing and contrasting, just trying to get a feel for how contemporary people dealt with, how they thought about, how they coped with the national. I mean, who can actually fathom what it's like to be at war with your own citizens, with your own neighbors? It's a scary thought. So with that in mind, I do like to just I always try to just keep that in mind as we, like to have fun. Today we're going to read some Walt Whitman. Love Walt Whitman. But it's not necessary. It's not the glorious romantic Civil War that I think a lot of us have come to know in pop culture. That there were real stakes behind it, real lives that definitely affect us today. Check out my episode yesterday concerning the Ku Klux Klan mural in a Florida courthouse. With that, I do want to specify a little bit. I mentioned that the KKK had killed 3 innocent children in the early 60s. That was 4 innocent children. And that was the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing, of course, that we all should know about. And that was in Birmingham, Alabama, in September of 1963. And 4 members of a local Ku Klux Klan chapter planted at least 15 sticks of dynamite attached to a timing device beneath the steps located on the east side of the church. So when someone such as that painter, or at least that courthouse, and they're distributing flyers that say there were minor resurgences of the Klan in the 20s and 50s. but that's it. Just little reoccurrences. No, they were quite the stain on the national consciousness. And these 4 children were murdered as a result, and their names were Addie Mae Collins, Cynthia Wesley, Carol Robertson, and Carol Denise McNair. 3 of them were 14 years old, and Carol Denise McNair was 11. So those are the folks you need to remember as we move forward, along with George Floyd and everyone else. So with that, I'll read some other names who happen to be poets of American literature. The first one, as I said, is Walt Whitman. And Walt Whitman was born in 1819, died in 1892, was born in West Hills, New York. After leaving school, he undertook a number of occupations, including printer, carpenter, teacher, and newspaper editor. Whitman's most important work, Leaves of Grass, was first published in 1855 as a slim volume containing 12 long poems. Whitman spent much of the rest of his life revising the work, adding and occasionally removing verse. The last edition, published the year before his death, contained nearly 400 poems. In 1862, after his brother, George Washington Whitman, was wounded at Fredericksburg, Virginia, Whitman volunteered as an army nurse and ministered to soldiers in Washington. He recorded his wartime experiences in drum taps, 1865, and memoranda during the war, 1867. So, yeah, I mean, Whitman's just a name that's going to come up anytime you study American history, American culture. Um, I haven't read as much as I should, so I'm excited to read The Wound Dresser. An old man bending, I come among new faces, years looking backward, resuming in answer to children. Come tell us, old man, as from young men and maidens that love me. Years hence of these scenes, of these furious passions, these chances, of unsurpassed heroes, was one side so brave, the other was equally brave. Now be witness again, paint the mightiest armies of earth. Of those armies so rapid, so wondrous, what saw you to tell us? What stays with you latest and deepest? Of curious panics, of hard fought engagements, or sieges tremendous, what deepest remains? O maidens and young men I love, and that love me, what you ask of my days, those the strangest and sudden your talking recalls. Soldier alert I arrive, after a long march, covered with sweat and dust. In the nick of time I come, plunge in the fight, loudly shout in the rush of successful charge. Enter the captured works, yet lo, like a swift running river, they fade. Pass and are gone, they fade. I dwell not on soldiers' perils or soldiers' joys. Both I remember well, many the hardships, few the joys, yet I was content. But in silence, in dreams' projections, while the world of gain and appearance and mirth goes on, so soon what is over forgotten, and waves wash the imprints off the sand, and nature's reverie sad, with hinged knees returning, I enter the doors. Well, for you up there, whoever you are, follow me without noise, and be of strong heart. Bearing the bandages, water, and sponge, straight and swift to my wounded I go. Where they lie on the ground after the battle brought in, where their priceless blood reddens the grass, the ground, or to the rows of the hospital tent, or under the roofed hospital. To the long rows of cots up and down each side I return. To each and all, one after another, I draw near, not one do I miss. An attendant follows, holding a tray. He carries a refuse pail, soon to be filled with clotted rags and blood, emptied and filled again. I onward go, I stop, with hinged knees and steady hand to dress wounds. I am firm with each. The pangs are sharp yet unavoidable. One turns to me his appealing eyes. Poor boy, I never knew you, yet I think I could not refuse this moment to die for you if that would save you. On I go. Open doors of time, open hospital doors. The crushed head I dress. Poor crazed hand, tear not the bandage away. The neck of the cavalryman, with the bullet through and through, I examine. Hard the breathing rattles, quite glazed already the eye, yet life struggles hard. Come, sweet death, be persuaded. O beautiful death, in mercy come quickly. From the stump of the arm, the amputated hand, I undo the clotted lint, remove the slaw, wash off the matter and blood. Back on his pillow, the soldier bends, with curved neck and side-falling head. His eyes are closed, his face is pale. He dares not look on the bloody stump, and yet has not yet looked on it. I dress a wound in the side, deep, deep. But a day or two more, For see, the frame all wasted already and sinking, and the yellow-blue countenance see. I dress the perforated shoulder, the foot with the bullet wound, cleanse the one with a gnawing and putrid gangrene, so sickening, so offensive, while the attendant stands behind aside me, holding the tray and pail. I am faithful, I do not give out. The fractured thigh, the knee, the wound in the abdomen, these and more I dress with impassive hand, yet deep in my breast a fire, a burning flame. Thus in silence, in dreams, projections, returning, resuming, I thread my way through the hospitals. The hurt and wounded I pacify with soothing hand. I sit by the restless all the dark night. Some are so young, some suffer so much. I recall the experience, sweet and sad. Many a soldier's loving arms about this neck have crossed and rested. Many a soldier's kiss dwells on these bearded lips. I don't really have anything more to say about that. That was hauntingly beautiful, and I think that's the best poem I've read so far. Links down below to that poem, as well as our next one, which is by John Williamson Palmer. And Palmer was a Confederate, or at least a Southern poet. That's the thing with this book, Poetry of the Civil War. It is divided into two halves, the blue and the gray. Walt Whitman obviously is writing from a Northern Union perspective, and we'll see what Palmer has to offer from the Southern side. John Williamson Palmer, 1825 to 1906, was born in Baltimore and studied medicine at the University of Maryland. He practiced in San Francisco and Honolulu before being hired as a surgeon of the East India Company. From 1851 to 1852, Palmer served in the Second Burmese War, returning to the United States in 1853. During the Civil War, he enlisted in the Confederate Army and was a war correspondent for the New York Tribune. Interesting. A poet, novelist, anthologist, and translator, Palmer was the author of numerous books, including For Charlie's Sake and Other Lyrics and Ballads, 1901. Okay, bit of an interesting story. I bet he has a really interesting life there, traveling in South Asia, fighting in wars, and then a correspondent for a New York publication. Well, here's his poem. It's called Stonewall Jackson's Way. Come, stack arms, men, pile on the rails, stir up the campfire bright. No growling if the canteen fails. We'll make a roaring night. Here Shenandoah brawls along, here burly Blue Ridge echoes strong, to swell the brigade's rousing song of Stonewall Jackson's Way. We see him now, the queer slouch hat cocked o'er his eye askew, the shrewd dry smile, the speech so pat, so calm, so blunt, so true. The blue light elder knows him well. Says he, that's Banks, he's fond of shell. Lord save his soul, we'll give him. Well, that's Stonewall Jackson's Way. Silence, ground arms, kneel all, caps off. Old massa's going to pray. Strangle the fool that dares to scoff. Attention, it's his way. Appealing from his native sod, in forma papri to God. Lay bare thine arms, stretch forth thy rod. Amen. That's Stonewall's way. He's in the saddle now. Fall in, steady the whole brigade. Hills at the ford, cut off. We'll win his way out, ball and blade. What matter if our shoes are worn? What matter if our feet are torn? Quick step, we're with him before morn. That's Stonewall Jackson's way. The sun's bright lances rout the mists of morning, and by George, here's Longstreet struggling in the lists, hemmed in an ugly gorge. Pope and his Dutchman whipped before, bayonets and grape, hear Stonewall roar. Charge Stuart to pay off Ashby's score in Stonewall Jackson's way. Ah, maiden, wait and watch and yearn for news of Stonewall's band. Ah, widow, read with thy eyes that burn, that ring upon thy hand. Ah, wife, so on, pray on, hope on. Thy life shall not be all forlorn. The foe had better ne'er be born that gets in Stonewall's way. All right, so that is a markedly different tone than Walt Whitman's poem. Stonewall Jackson's Way seems to be quite the celebration of the celebrated Southern General Stonewall Jackson. I'll let you do your own research on that one. Fascinating individual. Yeah. So tomorrow we are featuring 2 more poems. The first is called Boston Hymn, read in Music Hall, January 1st, 1863. That is by Northern poet Ralph Waldo Emerson. Man, if anyone could follow Whitman's shadow, it'd be Emerson. And then our Confederate poem for tomorrow is called Christmas Night of 62. And that is by William Gordon McCabe. So I think we got some things to look forward to tomorrow. Like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. And remember that the Civil War was not fun, but it gave us some great literature here. So thanks a lot, everybody. See you tomorrow.